I think it's really important to remember why we're here and how long we've been doing this, because May Day actually goes back a really long way. Way back in 1872, Canadians were already struggling for a shorter work week. There was 15,000 people who marched in Hamilton that year, demanding a shorter workday and other rights. And in 1884, the American labor movement set out a 2-year strategy for a shorter work week. They declared that if there was not an 8-hour day by May 1st of 1886, that there would be strikes all across the country. Now, of course, we're still fighting for the 8-hour day, and the employers, very few of them actually complied. So they called in the police when people started to rise up after May 1st, 1886, and there was some people killed, and there was a rally called on to happen in Chicago at the Haymarket. And the Haymarket was literally that, the market where hay was sold for horses, because of course people didn't have cars back then, and so they needed a place to go into the center of town to buy. So there was a rally. It was very quiet. It was very quiet until very close to the end when they were about to disband, and somebody threw a bomb. And it was immediately a police officer was killed, and the police who were there were already skittish, started firing wildly, and there was a lot of people killed that day. So who was responsible? Well, of course, the elite of Chicago decided that it was the anarchists and the radical movements in their city who were responsible. They immediately sent the police out to do a scoop of about 100 people, including a group of anarchists who had, only 3 of them had been there, but 8 of them were tried. There was a trial that found them guilty of having inspired the bombers. So even if they were not there, even if they were not directly responsible, the courts found that they, by their own political beliefs, had made it possible for someone to take courage to throw that bomb, which of course is ridiculous, but still led to the hangings of a number of those people. So they became known as the Haymarket Martyrs, and soon after there was call for an international day to remember them and to mark their legacy, and so even still today we have May Day every year. And it's not that much celebrated here in Canada and the US as it should be, and so extra thanks to you for being here. But it's also in many parts of the world a national holiday where this is a very, very important day for workers of all stripes, paid, unpaid. Everybody works somehow, and so we in the labor movement also see this as a movement of labor. Doesn't necessarily mean unionized labor, and I think that that's an important message for all of us. So the legacy of May Day continues on. We'll be here today, we'll be here next year, we'll be here for many years going forward as we celebrate the contribution of all workers.
Good afternoon, everyone. What an honor to be here once again. It truly is a beautiful sunny day in our beautiful city. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish for allowing to work on their land, play on our land, and work with each other on our land. it's really important for us to remember whose territory we are in our work and our play. I really believe that it's time for reconciliation. I was thinking about May Day, and by the way, happy May Day, happy May Day. And we are very fortunate, those of us who have jobs, to be able to work on a daily basis. But we must remember that there's many of our people in the city who are marginalized and who live on meager amounts from the provincial government or on the unemployment insurance, and really have a difficult time. So we need to remember those people who are not as fortunate as us. And it's also to remember that trailblazers of the movement, of this movement, had it not been for them, we would not be enjoying the fruits of the day. And so as we work forward in protecting the rights that we do have as workers, protecting the lands that we share with each other, which...
Thanks, Joey, and happy May Day, workers of BC. You know, today's a day for us to remember that working people in this province are the true engine of the economy. The song Solidarity Forever says, without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel would turn. And that's true. It's us, it's workers that keep the economy going. It's workers that keep our schools and our hospitals and our mines and our mills functioning. It's not CEOs, it's not management, not that they're bad people, but it's workers who make this province function on a long-term basis by going to work every day and doing what we do. But we need to use that strength, that solidarity. We need to use our collective action, not only to keep the province going, but to fight for equality and justice. That's our work as workers too, as working people. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. One is organizing more people into unions, because the more people in unions, the better the wages, the better the benefits, the healthier and happier working people are. Unions are a poverty reduction strategy. And we need to increase density in this province. We're working on that at the BC Fed, and we call on all our affiliates and all of you to join us in that fight. But as Joey said, and as we all know, we fight not just for workers in unions, we fight for all workers in this province and country. And that's the reason that we have a minimum wage campaign. We want a $15 minimum wage before 15 is too low, and we need to go higher. And in fact, 15 is too low, but at least it lifts workers above the poverty line. 27% of the population in this province work for wages less than $15 an hour. And my message to Christy Clark is, those are not all kids living in their parents' basement. They're moms, their dads, their families, struggling to put food on their table and keep their kids healthy. You shouldn't work all week and have to go to the food bank to feed your family, and we know that's happening in this province, and it's got to stop. So it's time for us to get a higher minimum wage for workers in this province. It's time for us to get a government that shares our values. We are 1 year out from an election. I call on you to think about being active over the next year to elect a government that is going to be on the side of working people, that's going to raise the minimum wage, that's going to bring in better health and safety standards, that's going to fund our schools and hospitals, that's going to be in favor of fair taxation and good public services, all the things we believe in as working people. So let's take up that fight. Let's never give up. Happy May Day, everybody.
Estoy nervioso.
I am nervous.
Pero su alegría me ayuda.
But I am so happy to stay here.
Nosotros somos una organización de dignidad migrante.
We are the Migrant Worker Dignity Association.
Y estamos acá para sentirnos más unidos todavía.
We are here because we want to feel close and united.
Por hacernos ver, por hacernos notar en nuestro trabajo, en nuestras luchas diarias.
Because we want you can notice that what we are doing daily in our job.
Nosotros nos organizamos y nos apoyamos en la organización unos a otros con toda la comunidad.
We usually help each other with all other members of the other members of migrant workers.
Y estamos felices de estar acá. Tan solo necesitamos elevar nuestro trabajo a la dignidad.
We are happy to stay here, but we have been treated with dignity.
De todos los que formamos este país.
Because everybody who is part of this country has to be respected equally.
Los invitamos también a que nos conozcan en Dignidad Migrante.
We invite all of you to know something about us, to know about who Migrant Workers Association is.
Al igual que nosotros estamos contentos de sentirnos uno solo con ustedes.
The same way that we feel so happy to feel together and feel united with you.
Porque somos los que movemos las máquinas.
Because we workers are the people who move the machines.
Somos los que movemos al mundo con nuestro trabajo.
We move the world with our work.
I will greet you in my first and home language, which is Filipino. Isang militanteng pandaigdigang araw ng paggawa, mabuhay ang uring manggagawa. A militant International Workers' Day, long live the working class. We raise our clenched fists to salute the workers in BC and everywhere, celebrating 130 years of International Workers' Day. May Day, May 1st, Labor Day, our day, symbolizes all the victories and struggles of workers against capitalist domination, exploitation, and oppression. On this day, more than any other day of the year, we remember and celebrate the victories of the labor movement for what many take for granted, gains like the right to strike, the right to organize, 8-hour workday, better working conditions. On this day, more than any other day of the year, we especially remember the pioneers and the martyrs in the labor movement, those who are jailed today in various countries of the world, trade union activists. In Iran, the Iranians are here in Mexico and the Philippines. And we draw inspiration from their commitment, perseverance, and resolve as we expand and strengthen the labor movement. We face and struggle against neoliberal policies, policies that favor free trade, privatization, lower taxes for big corporations and the elite, the use and exploitation of migrant or guest labor. We face and struggle against policies at the expense of reduced social services like housing, education, health, and environmental concerns. We struggle against policies that create a class of migrant workers who have little or no rights, and against policies that normalize precarious labor instead of job security, policies that seek to divide us workers in various and many forms. Joey has mentioned some of them. Migrant workers in Canada carry the burden of precariousness and worker disposability. Their work permits are tied to their specific employers. Their work permits are limited, short duration, and employers have to renew their work permits every freaking year at the price of $1,000 per head. Migrant workers have no access to a fair and just complaint mechanism. There is the revolving door of 4 years in Canada and 4 years out of Canada. There is the absence and the lack of access of permanent residency. The right to organize is simply not there. And yet, migrant workers continue to do their jobs here in Canada, contributing to Canadian economic well-being and society, taking care of Canada's children, Canada's sick and elderly, making sure that food is grown and harvested on Canadian farms and served on our tables. They do good work. They pay their taxes. And I say, if they are good enough to work, they should be good enough to stay. We assert that migrant workers should have access to basic human rights, labor protection, and social entitlements. We assert that migrant workers be able to come in with landed status, with pathway to Canadian citizenship. We unite and fight with Canadian workers to attain victories in improving living and working conditions for all. As migrant workers and migrant communities, we support and work for the Fight for 15 minimum wage campaign. We oppose the privatization of the public sector because we have seen the effects of what this brings. A strong and effective labor movement is not a movement of Canadian workers alone. It is a movement of all workers, whether they are migrant workers, often described as foreign and temporary. All of us can work together to rebuild an immigration system that does not create two classes of workers, one with full rights and the other with no little rights and no voice. We stand with all workers in building solidarity and community with one another as workers and as workers in our communities. All of us believe in decent jobs for everyone, in living wages for workers and their families. Because workers are not just units in a production line.
That's right.
We are people who make it possible for societies to function and are therefore essential to our society's well-being. Workers and unions must everywhere link their struggles to one another and to a broader resistance against anti-worker policies, against capitalism, neoliberalism, and if we extend that, imperialist wars. The gains and victories of workers anywhere, whether it is in Canada, in the Philippines, in Mexico, in Iran, are the gains and victories of all working people. As workers, we all share in the same fight. As workers, we all want the same things: greater freedom from exploitation and oppression, democracy, social justice, and lasting peace. Long live International Labor Day. Long live the workers of the world.
Do